Welcome to BitBoy Crypto, the largest cryptocurrency channel in all the interwebs. My name is TJ, and I'll be your host for today's episode of Around the Blockchain. Every day, we come to you live Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the trending crypto topics of the day, as well as discuss your most asked questions. We've got a really good show lined up for you today. We've got some really good guests. But first, if you guys are in the chat, we've already got a couple thousand people here. If you could smash that like button. We're trying to set a record to get more likes on this live stream than we do on the morning live stream. And we know the BitSquad comes out strong. They always do a really good job on the likes. I think we got up to 10,000 plus on the morning live stream today. So if you guys could come on real strong, if you like this format, smash that like button for us. We really appreciate it. Now let's get into the show. We've got some really good guests, some really good topics to cover. We've got an old crowd favorite, one of the ones you guys know and love, Crypto Jebb, back here with us today. We've got Diana Chen, a host of the Unstoppable Domains podcast, as well as Rice TV, joining us here again, and the one and only BitBoy Crypto, Ben Armstrong. We've got some really good topics to cover today. We've got a lot of, our institutions done with Bitcoin. We've got the news of Walmart not mentioning Bitcoin being purchased on their earnings call today, so many would assume that means they didn't do it. So our institutions moving on to greener pastures, tired of these red candles, and it's just over for Bitcoin and institutions. We've got more FUD. China supposedly banning cryptocurrency operations within their banks. Is this legit? How do we feel about this? Or is this the same narrative that we heard last cycle in 2017? Every other week you'd hear India's banning this, China's banning that. It's all over. So is this a great time to accumulate, or is this really the top? That's what we're going to get into here today. And finally, El Presidente, Dave Portnoy, the people's champ. We all know him. We love him. He does a great job. What's going on with this Safemoon stuff and this picks that he did with, I love the video. It was great entertainment. I'm really curious to hear what everybody thinks about his take on these things, his approach. Is he just trying to get in and learn like everybody else, or is, who knows what's going on? So I'm really curious to hear what you guys think. We're going to jump into that. And then if you guys haven't seen the show, wow, somebody's got some, they're coming for you, Rice. Duck and cover.
It's not me. It's not me.
It's coming.
Sorry, guys.
No, it's good. It's good. So if you guys haven't seen the show before, the way we do this, if you see those little squares in everybody's boxes, that's their point counter. Whoever has the most points at the end of the show will get 30 seconds to leave a parting message with the audience. So if you like what you hear from any of these guests, be sure to drop a +1 in the chat, and we will know to give them a point. As well as if you like, we also have links and descriptions to all of these channels in the description for this video. So if you like what you're hearing from any of these guests, show them that BitSquad love, hop in, give them a like, give them a subscribe, and let's help elevate the crypto space together. All right, that being said, we've got a lot of good topics. Let's get right to it. First thing, institutions. Walmart didn't buy Bitcoin. How long are we going to fall for that? Are we really putting all of our hopes and dreams in institutions saving the day and keeping this bull run going, or are we good without them? We'll start with you, Diana. What are your thoughts on the whole institutions and Bitcoin discussion?
I mean, I don't think institutions are saying bye to Bitcoin anytime soon, but I do think that people are paying more attention to Ethereum moving forward. And I think that's going to be the trend moving forward, because there's just a lot more you can do on Ethereum than with Bitcoin. And so if, long term, I definitely see Ethereum. I'm bullish on Ethereum. I see that as, moving ahead of Bitcoin if we're talking long term.
Okay, there you go. Sweet, short and sweet. I love it. Jeb, what do you think?
Here's the thing, guys. We built a lot of Bitcoin. We didn't build a lot of Bitcoin. We built all of Bitcoin on the idea of putting power back in our own hands. And now we're all really hyped up about the institutions getting in on Bitcoin. I liked when Tesla got in on Bitcoin, not because Tesla getting in on Bitcoin was this big deal, but because it got a lot of people talking about Bitcoin and it spread the word of Bitcoin. But intrinsically, we shouldn't be betting on the institutions, because at the end of the day, the whole point of Bitcoin is to challenge the institutions and take the power back from them and put it back in ourselves. So I actually challenge the premise that a lot of people are concerned about the institutions leaving Bitcoin. Look, that might have a short-term ramification on the price. We saw when Elon Musk came out and he started bashing Bitcoin that it dropped the price. We talked about that last Thursday when I was here. But at the end of the day, the success or failure of Bitcoin is not predicated on the institutions. In fact, The success or failure of the institutions is predicated on what Bitcoin does. Bitcoin is the cryptocurrency that I think is going to revolutionize the financial system, and the idea of taking power back from these central authorities and putting it in ourselves is essentially a way of democratizing different aspects of our lives. And I think that's what we're going to see happen moving into the next couple of decades as decentralized technology and as the internet allows that to happen. So at the end of the day, whether Walmart or Tesla is dumping or buying Bitcoin, frankly, I don't really care. What I'm interested in is how many people are buying Bitcoin retail. I like that the institutions are getting in because that's driving adoption and it's making people trust Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, the point is, does the retail trust Bitcoin? And the retail feels a lot better when the institutions get back in. But what have we not seen happen over the last 4 weeks since we've had a correction? We've seen Bitcoin's price go down. Viewership on this channel, BitBoy Crypto, viewership on my channel has gone up. Viewership on all the channels has gone up. There's more people than ever interested in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies right now. So just because Bitcoin might be lowering its price and just because the institutions might be talking about dumping Bitcoin, I don't buy that FUD for a second, and I don't think you should either.
Love it. Yeah, those were a lot of really good points there. Good energy. Love you. Always got a lot to say. Got your pistol packed.
Thank you, TJ. I appreciate that.
No, it's good. We love having you on the show, man. It's a really good time. And you both made some really good points about we are seeing the kind of new retail investors capitulating a little bit. If we looked at these numbers from Glassnode, like they're saying most of this big sell-off here, most of this volume did come from short-term holders that have a little bit of fear. They're buying this FUD, and we're actually seeing institutions, to Diana's point, scoop up a lot of Ethereum right now. So we're seeing almost both of those scenarios you just outlined playing out in the numbers and in the data. But Rice, let me hear from you. What do you think about this situation?
Well, I have to agree a lot with what Jebb said. You have to think about why you got involved in crypto. And this is really a shakeout. I mean, when it really comes down to everything that we're going to be talking about in the next topic, especially supply and demand. And they're trying to shake the weak hands out when it really comes down to it. And when you have enough money, you can manipulate the markets, and the institutions play by their own set of rules. So you just have to really picture why you got involved in this space, because me coming from that cypherpunk mentality of the creative destruction, because I look at economics and I look at what the dollar bill has done and what kind of situation has put all of us who live on this planet in as being debt slaves to nothing but debt. Everything that we do within our entire system is based upon debt. And now we're seeing the kind of the final demise of what's been going on with this inflationary event that's occurring. And we have an answer out with something like Bitcoin, a decentralized cryptocurrency that is deflationary versus the opposite of what's going on currently with the dollar. I mean, we're seeing central banks, the Federal Reserve, we're seeing money being printed all around the world. We had 24% of our money supply printed last year. And now they're talking about inflation. This is just the beginning of all of that. And people just need to realize that we could take the power back, we the people. And I agree with Jebb. This wasn't created for institutions. This was created for the people. This was supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash system that was supposed to give us that opportunity to get away from what happened in 2008. And here we are again, and no one's really listened. And unfortunately, and this is the unfortunate problem, the everyday average person is going to follow trends. They're going to listen to the news and they're going to buy in on the hype. They're not going to be thinking for themselves, doing their own research and getting into this for the right reason. Just going out last weekend, trying to enjoy myself. I had so many people talking to me about cryptocurrency, and they were talking about owning shares of Doge. Yeah. And it was just like, it just really took away what crypto was about for me. Yeah. And a lot of elements. So, I mean, you really have to think about why you got into this. And if you got into this for the creative destruction, and you got into this for what it represents for taking the power away from central banks, then you need to believe in that and hold on for dear life. That's what HODL's all about. Otherwise, the supply and demand comes into play. And unfortunately, the institutions are just scooping up not only Ethereum, but Bitcoin. Yeah. So that's just kind of my thoughts on that.
No, great points. And I love that you mentioned that Bitcoin is the people's money. I saw some of the maxis over the weekend getting pretty irritated that Doge has kind of adopted their narrative as the people's money. And basically recycled a lot of the things that Bitcoin was about right at the beginning and tried to apply it, rebrand it into Doge. But Ben, let me hear from you. Is this simply, the assets shifting hands from weaker hands to stronger hands with these, long-term holders? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's definitely what's going on. We know Michael Saylor's buying.
Yep.
We know Walmart's not buying. And I do want to draw a distinction. Like, I think we've kind of set this up not the right way here. Walmart's not an institution. Walmart's a corporation. When we're talking about institutions, we're talking about the large hedge funds. We're talking about the banks getting involved. Walmart buying Bitcoin, if they had in fact bought it, I mean, that's a corporate buy. That's them putting it in their treasury. And this is the wild card that we didn't see coming during this bull run. We all knew the institutional money was coming, the futures contracts, backed, the ETFs eventually. We all know that was coming. And we think, Raoul Powell just talked about how the ETFs are coming and that's going to be the rocket fuel that's going to move it up. I'm a little gun shy to say that due to that we've been saying that since 2018. But yeah. The Walmart, like my big thing on this is when we're having bullish narratives and prices are going up, we're seeing these like the opposite of a FUD story. I'll call it a hopium story, where we saw Facebook has bought Bitcoin. They're going to reveal it. Walmart has bought Bitcoin. They're going to reveal it. This is how they manipulate it to the upside, because neither one of these stories have shaken out to be true. And it's truly sad that we can't trust Bitcoin Magazine, who's putting on Bitcoin 2021, and that we can't trust all the places that talked about Facebook buying Bitcoin, because the Walmart story originated with Bitcoin Magazine. And so it's a shame that we can't trust these people. Now, look, they have sources, but there's also a responsibility not to put out a story based upon total speculation, which is what happened. So we've got FUD stories that we're seeing right now that's pushing the price down. But really, when you think about it, this is what I've been thinking about all day. Because this Walmart thing has really pissed me off, because I kind of put my credibility on the line saying, well, Bitcoin Magazine said it's true. It's probably going to come to pass. You wouldn't think they would put this information out without good sources and without knowing and vetting the information. What I've been thinking about is this. How much manipulation are we really seeing in this market? Like, are we seeing these stories set up 6 weeks ahead of time, knowing that on May 18th, this would drop and that we would find out they didn't buy it? Like, are we seeing manipulation set up 6 weeks ahead of time so that when these powers that be dump the price, this comes out right in the middle of it? Because if you really look at what happened with the Facebook story, where they did not buy Bitcoin, that was actually the beginning of this dump. That was the very beginning of when things really started dropping. So yes, obviously this is not the top of the market. I will put my credibility on the line and say that for sure. This is not the top. Agreed. We have nothing to suggest this is top. We're going to talk about this much later on in the week. So for that reason, and I believe that with every fiber in my body, okay? So for that reason, obviously, this is nothing but manipulation, and we're seeing people trying to force out smaller holders of Bitcoin so that eventually all of the Bitcoin can be owned by institutions and corporations.
Yeah, good points. And Diana, I want to circle back to you and talk a little bit about what you were saying with Ethereum. You mentioned you thought Ethereum was going to be the bigger winner here, and it is interesting that when we look at all these stories, there's a lot of FUD being pushed towards Bitcoin, but very rarely do we hear other cryptocurrencies get lumped into that conversation. So is this almost good news for Ethereum as much as it is bad news for Bitcoin? A lot of these stories?
I mean, I don't really see it as like Bitcoin versus Ethereum versus any of these other cryptocurrencies. I think like crypto is the future. And I think like I'm, a proponent of Bitcoin, Ethereum, any legitimate crypto going up is like something that I'm happy to see. So I don't really see it like in terms of Bitcoin versus Ethereum, like Bitcoin going down is good for Ethereum going up or anything like that. I don't know that that is super related. I believe in the longevity of Ethereum just because from the tech perspective, there's just a lot more potential there with what you can build. And I always think about the bigger picture of like, what are we building with all of this beyond just trying to make a quick investment, whether you're a hodler or you're a pump and dumper, like whatever your strategy is. For me, it's more about like, what are we building in the long term? And that's like thinking ahead to building Web3. We've come from the era of Web 1, now we're in Web 2, and then moving forward, going into Web 3. And that's where I think Ethereum really has a leg up, because you can build so many more projects that will really help contribute to the ecosystem and get people onboarded onto Web3 and sort of move towards this whole concept of decentralization that I think people in this space are really excited about.
Yeah, no, I agree. There is a lot of excitement from those in the industry. I think, we hear it here today. Everybody's very confident about the future. Nobody's scared. None of the professionals are scared. Nobody thinks this is the top. But speaking of FUD, and we have a lot of it today, we've got the People's Bank of China coming out again saying they're going to ban Bitcoin. We know they're pushing their own central bank digital currency. There's been a lot of discussions about governments banning Bitcoin and if that's really even a feasible process. Like, how do you actually go about doing that? If there ever was a nation that was capable of completely censoring something like this, it probably would be China. They are a lot of surveillance there and a lot of watched every single transactions. They do a lot of stuff through WeChat. So I'm curious to hear from you guys. Do you think this is real? Will they really come out and go hard against Bitcoin and try to really push their own CBDC? We'll start with you, Ben. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I've said forever. I mean, as soon as I heard that they were doing their own CBDC, that this was going to be the plan. I mean, the plan was going to be for them to really put the clamp as much as they think that they can on other cryptos in order to pump up their CBDC, which has been a big flop so far. But if we know anything about China, it's that they're going to force it to work. So I think that really what it boils down to here is, and it's the famous meme, right? A lot of us who have been here for a long time, we've seen the meme. It's the gate that's got no fence around it. It's just a sidewalk with a gate, but you can just walk around it. And it says like, this is the government trying to ban crypto. The thing that makes Bitcoin so dangerous to, the status quo, to the powers that be, to the current infrastructure and systems of the world, is that the more you try to ban it, the more obvious its use case becomes. It's like they're in such a bad spot. It might almost be better for them to just say, okay, Bitcoin, do whatever you want. And then maybe, it can run into its own internal problems with speed. And that's why Diana made a lot of great points about Ethereum. I mean, obviously that's all stuff we talk about on the channel all the time. And I believe 100%. I do believe that Ethereum is better than Bitcoin in the long term. Ethereum is not a cryptocurrency per se, like Bitcoin is trying to be a cryptocurrency. Ethereum I would put in the crypto assets category for sure. But at the end of the day, China is going to try to make it harder for their people to use Bitcoin, but it's just going to be one of those things where, like I said before, the more you try to hold it down, the more obvious it becomes.
Yeah, good points. And it kind of brings me to another topic, because we also talk about, when it comes to Bitcoin in China, we're always talking about Bitcoin mining in China. And they are the leader of the world when it comes to Bitcoin mining. So, Jebb, I'm curious to hear from you. How do you think, if they're taking this stance on Bitcoin mining, do you think China will lose its status as the top place for Bitcoin mining?
So there is so much to unpack here. Number one, I love what you said, Ben. Whenever they try and ban it, they just dig themselves in a deeper hole. It's funny that it's called a Chinese finger trap, because like the more that they try and pull away from Bitcoin, the more they get stuck with it. True. I think this central bank, this digital currency that they're trying to launch is going to flat out fail. The whole reason that you build a cryptocurrency is for it to be decentralized. Blockchain technology is actually, if you read the Bitcoin Standard by Safed Amos, he talks about this. Blockchain technology, because it's decentralized, is actually very inefficient from a computational standpoint. Them trying to build a digital currency misses the whole point. Here's the thing you got to understand about this whole thing. First things first, they have been talking about banning Bitcoin, not banning it. I got into the space July 31st, 2017. I remember every week it was banned, then unbanned, then banned, then banned. They couldn't make up their mind. It went back and forth. You could set your watch by it. It was crazy. But here's some fundamentals that I want you to walk away from this with. Number one, you have to understand China. And number two, you have to understand Bitcoin. Let me break that down for you. China right now is going through all kinds of growing pains. Its population has doubled in the last 30 years, roughly. Its GDP has like 10x in the last 30 years. It's facing a massive water crisis. Beijing and many of the northern regions of China are going through major water crises, which has to do with them trying to cut down on Bitcoin mining. It has a massive population issue. There's a video over on Polymatter talking about this. They have a ton of domestic things going on. If you guys are old enough to remember the 2008 Olympics, China positioned themselves as the friend of the world. And now they're positioning themselves as the I'm going to piss the whole world off country. This is not me just saying this about China. This is China's published stance. If you go on all kinds of Twitter profiles from different ambassadors, they are intentionally attacking Brazilian diplomats and European diplomats and American and Canadian diplomats, they are intentionally trying to stoke flames. And the reason they're doing that is because they're trying to build nationalism inside their own country. And by doing that, they are trying to, at the same time, build their own digital currency so they can use that to build on top of what they're building as far as a strong, centrally planned government and economy. The problem is free market capitalism kills that every single time. It never works. It failed for the Soviet Union. It's failing for the European Union, and is going to fail for China. It's failed for every centrally planned economy that has ever existed. And that, by the way, is why Bitcoin is so valuable. Because Bitcoin, if we remember its mission, is designed to be a peer-to-peer digital cash. What we need to do, guys, is we need to do something that I tell people all the time here in my office. I tell my employees and friends, we got to do this. We got to keep our eyes on the prize with our head in the sky, and everything will be just fine. And what that means is, let's not forget the mission that Bitcoin is on. And the reason we came here in the first place, this is what Rice was talking about a second ago. Bitcoin is designed to be a digital, decentralized cash that is not built on the back of institutions. It is built on the back of us. Whatever China does, first things first, free market capitalism is going to tarnish it, because free market capitalism does not favor centrally planned economies. And second thing second, even if it fails in China, that's okay, because we still have the market to our own. It's just not going to be something that we have to worry about in the long run. And I really want to encourage you guys not to get too caught up in FUD, like, oh, China's banning this, or Walmart didn't buy, or like Ben was saying earlier, oh, we talked about Facebook. At the end of the day, what's most important is the mission, lest us forget it.
Yeah, no. That was a lot, man. A lot of great points. The chat's loving everything
brother.
you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty
Amen,
much all
brother.
on board. So, Diana, what is your take on the whole Chinese banning Bitcoin FUD situation? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody made a lot of good points already, but like the one thing I would add too is going off of what Jebb was saying. I think you do have to understand like what China is about and like sort of what their mentality is, and they're all about censorship and controlling what's going on inside of their country. So from that perspective, like if we're thinking about, you know, decentralizing everything and crypto and things like this, like things that they wouldn't have, the Chinese government wouldn't have control over, that just doesn't seem aligned with like their whole vibe and their whole mentality at all. And so I mean, can China ban crypto? 100%, in my opinion. And I wouldn't be surprised to see it. And I think that I would be actually very surprised to see the opposite of that, which is them opening up to everybody using crypto and opening up to, you know, let's build out Web3, let's like decentralize everything and move towards this. I think they're going to try their hardest to not let that happen as much as possible.
Yeah, very good points. And then Rice, you're getting a lot of comments in the chat saying that you were loving everything Jebb was saying. Do you want to hop in there? What's your take?
Yeah, no, I was totally digging what he was saying. I mean, we're on the same page. I mean, this is what I'm calling government. I mean, it's FUD put out by the governments. And kind of like you said before we started, when we first started the stream, it seems like countries are taking turns. It's India, it's Russia, it's China, it's the United States, all just saying what they need to say to kind of get the people away from it as much as possible, even though it does push people in reverse psychology in that direction. One of the interesting things here, I mean, we're talking about China doing the CBDCs, but the People's Bank of China, in the article that was sent to me, they're creating the DCEP, which is the most perfect title for what they're calling it, because it's a digital currency electronic payment. What people got to realize with these CBDCs and government coins, I don't really think truly they're going to be cryptocurrencies. It's kind of like a crypto in disguise, like Transformers. They're just digital currencies. There's a big difference in a digital currency and a cryptocurrency. They both may look the same as far as like when you're looking at a computer screen, but what they are and looking into the architecture is very different. And another thing that they mentioned was that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies aren't real cryptocurrencies. And so all value that we have in this world, every single thing is all perceived. Nothing really is really technically worth anything. It's all what we agree. And there were one point in time where we used these puka shells as a form of currencies in the world. So it's all a perceived thing when it comes down to it. I don't know if you guys knew this, but they used to use tally sticks and things back in England in early British history. And the Rothschilds actually purchased the Bank of England with tally sticks.
No way.
A lot of people don't know that.
I mean, I knew they used to use tally sticks, but I didn't realize they purchased the bank with it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's all perceived value. And we're at the end of a fiat cycle. The governments are doing what they can to try to keep people interested in what they're doing. Now you got governments giving out free money. You know? It's it's just a very interesting time period where we're at, and people really need to pay attention to what's happening on the economic climate, because there's a lot of stuff happening all around the world with all this money printing that's been going on.
Yeah.
So we haven't felt the pain, like I said, from 2020 and everything that's been happening since 2008, when everything was put on life support, and it's just basically a zombie banking system.
Yeah, no, that's a huge point you just made there. A lot of people don't realize it is a zombie economy. You hear the phrase a lot, and it has been on life support not since 2020, but since 2008, and they've been kicking this can down the road that whole time and making the bubble bigger and bigger and bigger. And then when a little pressure came on it again, they just blew it up 10 times more. And you're right, we have not felt the effects of all this money printing yet. I think we're most likely next year or the year after is when the real damage is going to be felt. Ben, what's your take on this whole situation? Or you started with the China stuff, didn't you?
Yeah, I've already said my piece. I will agree with everyone else. I think we can probably move on to the next topic, I think.
Yeah, no, the next topic.
Host is with the mostest. And let me just say one thing.
Yeah. You're a great host,
you guys know, I have to always say one last thing. Someone said I look like the villain from Immortal Engines, which I looked that up. I had no idea who it was. I think because I'm always like so serious on the show. Like I'm always just like, because I'm listening, I'm trying to learn from Jebb and Diana and Rice. I think like the whole thing is like I agree that we have the DZP, the CBDC. They're not real crypto assets. They are kind of like a Bizarro world version that is more of the same, and that's what they want us to have, is more of the same. But I do think at the same time, like there is a balance in between what Rice and Jebb are saying and what reality is. You know, like I understand, like we're all here. Anyone who has been here since the bear market and is stuck through this entire thing, we believe in more than just making money in crypto. We wouldn't have been here since 2018. Okay. So I believe, like Diana was talking about the censorship in China and the resistance to decentralization and the resistance to wanting to have a free and open internet. I mean, my God, they can't even go outside of the Chinese digital fence to get to regular websites without having a VPN and risking their lives in some cases. So I hate all that stuff. I hate all that. Like I hate censorship for sure. However, there is also a reality of the situation, which is these people are not going to give it up without clawing and fighting. And in general, as humans, we tend to mess stuff up, even when we've been given everything that we need to make things better. So I think that like I align with all the things these people are talking about that are on the show today in terms of, the ideals of Bitcoin and the ideals of crypto. But I'm also not naive enough to believe that that's going to be real easy or that it's a guarantee. This is what I say. I say that blockchain and crypto and Bitcoin, like you can interchange any of those three words. Like they may not change the world. They may not solve things. They may not break the traditional systems that we have, but they're the only shot that we have to do it. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, great points all
That's good.
around, and I really liked what you said, Rice, about them kind of being cryptocurrencies in disguise, more or less, or they're not really cryptocurrencies because the spirit behind them is decentralization, and then we've got all these other coins out there that are masquerading, and they're trying to be more efficient versions of basically getting stimulus out and continuing the status quo, more or less. But speaking of Bizarro World, we had an emergency press conference last night from El Presidente Dave Portnoy, where he was declaring his allegiance for different projects that he's going to put his money behind and pump. I think he said before the conference he'd bought $40,000 of this coin, and it was basically all meme coins and Litecoin. I'm not sure how he came up with the coins that he came up with, where he got those selections. I have to think there's some people at Barstool Sports that are into cryptocurrency that have some understanding of this stuff. I would imagine, maybe not. Maybe he, like I know he does a lot of stuff on TikTok. Maybe that's where he got some of these picks from. I'm not sure. At the end of the day, I believe he ended up going with Shiba, right? Or no, Safemoon. I'm sorry. He ended up going with Safemoon. So, Diana, at the very beginning, you said you're all for all different legitimate cryptocurrencies, anything going up. Like, so where do you draw the line?
So how much money did you invest in Safemoon?
Exactly. Well,
200 million.
Where's the line? of what's
TJ,
legitimate.
the keyword there is legitimate.
Right.
Anything that's based on a meme or a joke or anything like that is not legitimate. For me, any crypto that is legitimate is something there's actually a project behind it. So if you're talking about something like Dogecoin, which was literally made as a joke, from a meme of a Shiba, like there's no project behind that. There's nothing behind that. That's not legitimate. You're talking about Safemoon. I mean, same opinion there. It's not legitimate. There's nothing behind it. There's no project behind it. You're not building anything. If the value goes up or down, that's totally, that's not based on anything. That's based on, Elon Musk tweeting things or Dave Portnoy doing press conferences or Pomp going out and saying things. I mean, it's literally based on Twitter and memes. And for me, there's no longevity behind that, and it's a joke. Like if you want to buy some Doge, if you want to buy some Safemoon as a collectible to be funny, whatever the case may be, like fine, go ahead and do that. But if you're relying on those coins to become a millionaire, or if you really believe in them and you think there's longevity behind that, then I would just urge you to think again.
Yeah, good points. I agree 100%. Jeb, what do you think?
I totally agree with her, so I'm not going to repeat what she just said about it not having a project behind it. By the way, a lot of people say that about Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a very real project, and it has a $100 trillion project a problem is trying to solve. So when people say like, oh, well, you say that about Dogecoin, but what about Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin does have a real problem it's trying to solve. Here's the thing that I take away from this. Number one, all of them are jokes. David Portnoy buying whatever he wants. Okay, cool. That's a funny meme. But I think a big takeaway that we can mention here is about these meme coins. And I've talked about this quite a bit on my channel because we talk about Doge sometimes and we talk about some of these things like Safemoon. Here's the thing, guys. Not only do they not have a project behind them, I personally think Safemoon in particular, I'm calling it out, is morally abhorrent. Let me explain why. Why do we have a problem with stimulus checks here? I'm taking a big stand on this because I think it is morally abhorrent, not just a bad investment. Here's why. The reason we don't like stimulus checks, right, where we have an issue with all of this money printing, right, is because what we're doing is we're inflating our currency and slowly taxing our citizenry, taking money out of the economy and putting it in the hands of someone else against their will. What is Safemoon and some of these other projects doing? It is basically a Ponzi scheme. It's a decentralized Ponzi scheme is what it is. The people that put their money in early are making money off of the people that put their money in later, and there's no real value there. And that $70 billion market on Dogecoin, for example, and $5 billion market on Safemoon is going to crash eventually because we can't deny there is a meme economy. It plays a part in politics now. But the problem is it's not a stable economy and not one that you want to invest in because it has no longevity. The reason I say that they're morally abhorrent, and by the way, if you want to invest in and have fun, you have your fun. I have a lot of people in my office that own Safemoon because it's funny. I think Dogecoin is hilarious. I'm not making a value judgment against anyone. I'm talking about the project itself. The reason I think it's a problem is because it incentivizes people to spend a lot of money on something that has no value, and then they end up losing a lot of their money. I unfortunately know a lot of people that have put their life savings into a Dogecoin or into a Sheeb or into a Buttcoin. I know a lot of people that have lost a lot of money on this, and my heart breaks for it because I see people losing money. And the point of cryptocurrency, guys, is to make the world a better place by decentralizing finance in a way that puts power back in our own hands. And it hurts me to see this because, yes, it's funny, but at the end of the day, it's completely antithetical. It's completely against what we stand for here in cryptocurrency. And that's why over on my channel, I take such a hard stance against these meme coins because, yes, they're funny, but as far as, because you'll hear me talk about philosophy a lot, philosophically, they're completely incongruent with what we believe here in cryptocurrency, and they're not a surefire way to make money. They're not even close to it. In fact, I'd say if you want to try and go make money, you'd probably be better off playing the lottery than trying to get into a Safemoon or a Dogecoin. That's my take.
Yeah, no, that's like you said, it's a very strong stance to take, but it's hard to disagree with your kind of your thoughts on it. I mean, it really does. I mean, he even acknowledged in the press conference, like he even said, might be a Ponzi, who knows?
Yeah.
So that take that for what you will. Like Rice, that's kind of what I was going to ask you. Like, is this kind of the BitConnect of this cycle? Do you see this getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then having a incredible collapse, or what's your take?
Well, I mean, when I first watched that video, it made me really think, because I speak sarcasm as a second language, and I was just really thinking he was being sarcastic about the entire thing.
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing is I don't think everyone else is going to necessarily read into it as that, and they're probably going to like buy some Safemoon. The bad thing is, I mean, it does show the greed in humanity, unfortunately, which is a driving factor for a lot of people. It shouldn't be, but unfortunately, it is one of those things. And usually it's when you get really greedy and you lose that you start to change your concept of what things mean to you, and you start to look at things a little bit differently. Also, with all these various cryptocurrencies, I mean, I don't know how many there are now, over 10,000, 15,000. All it does is really just inflate the entire market. And in some of these projects, when you lump them all together, it just really brings away some of the legitimacy of crypto and Bitcoin. It's another ploy for the mainstream media to just try to make Bitcoin and other powerful decentralized cryptocurrencies or crypto assets look bad overall because they're being lumped in with the Safemoons, with the BitConnects, and with, just the pump and dumps and the manipulation that's going on. It's very unfortunate.
Yeah, no, that's a huge point. Like for us that are in this every day and we're looking at all these different currencies, when a new one pops up, that's one thing. But if you're new to the market and you're looking over hundreds of different currencies and you're going down that top 200 list on CoinMarketCap, it's really hard for you to distinguish the differences between the two. And you see these things popping up, you see prices going, and it's really hard for newcomers to know what's real, what's legitimate, what's building towards something, and what's just hype for the moment. But Ben, I want to hear your take on this and Safemoon. I know we got a lot of people, some people in the chat saying we're all just a bunch of haters, but what do you think about this whole situation? Does it hurt the space when we've got people as big as Elon Musk and Portnoy? Like last cycle, the people that were pumping and dumping some of this stuff were of a much smaller scale. So on the sense of exposure to cryptocurrency, we're definitely reaching a much larger audience now. But when they're pushing projects like Doge and Safemoon, like what is the net effect?
Well, safe is in the title, right?
It is.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that why he picked it? I mean, it's obviously a really safe and best.
No, he said he liked it because it has
not
moon
financial
in the title.
advice.
Yeah.
Oh, he liked it because it had moon. Well, I've talked about before how, Safemoon is really like an oxymoron, right? Like you can't get to the moon being safe, right? But that's the message that it wants to portray is like, hey, it's guaranteed to go up. You'll make a lot of money, but we've already seen a lot of problems. There's, and you got to kind of really do your research to know what you believe about Safemoon or these other projects. But there's a lot of evidence out there that, PancakeSwap is involved maybe in some of this Safemoon hype, that there's a lot of really suspicious stuff going on with it. But I don't know the ins and outs of it enough to come out and call it a scam. And I, as opposed to a lot of other people, I won't come out and call things scams until they're clearly scams. I think we have to, in this space where everyone is a scammer and every project is a scam to someone, I think we have to draw some distinctions between what really is a scam in crypto. BitConnect, a Ponzi scheme, a very clear Ponzi scheme, that trying to compare meme coins to Ponzi schemes, especially BitConnect was the 5th largest Ponzi scheme in the history of the world. Like, I don't think it does it justice, right? Especially when you have a lot of people making money. And when you look at these meme coins and the fact that people are making money with them, it's hard to talk sense into them. And I brought up this point several times on the show already, which is, right, like Jebb said, like we feel bad for people that lose money because they make bad investments. But are we also going to feel bad for the people that invest in Ethereum at $27,000 right before the bear market? Like, guys, what these meme coins are going to go through when they get the bubble popped here for them is the same thing that all crypto is going to do when the bear market comes. So I think really, once again, preaching education to people, preaching research to people, preaching to people that like it's up to you to learn more about this. That's the only way you're going to make money, because people see the shortcuts. They see people that jump in Shiba or jump in Dogecoin and they ride it all the way up. Well, guess what? These people are going to lose all their money at some point if they're not educated on the market cycles of crypto and understanding what's coming, because there will be a large bear market that does come. It may not be as bad as previous ones, but it's still going to be very bad. Like there's no way, in my opinion, that we're not going to go through that. So I think really just continuing to teach people about what they should be investing in, and kind of like Diana said, looking what's behind the projects. That's why all we do, the only reason we talk about meme coins on my channel, on this show, is because they're popular topics, and that's our job in crypto, is to talk about current events and to try to show people what's real and what's not real. I mean, we're not ever doing reviews on Shiba on this channel to explain to you how it's going to decentralize the internet, or how Shiba is going to be the second coming of Bitcoin. Like, we're never going to do that because that's intellectually dishonest. So to everybody who's in these coins, be careful out there. Dave Portnoy, we know, like, I don't want to say anything bad about, but he's kind of a clown intentionally, right? Like, he goes out and tries to make a mockery of stuff. They're trying to bring the GameStop Wall Street bets mentality to crypto. And so in some regards, like, I get it. Come on in. If you all work together, like, you can make things go up because, you're investing and you all agree upon the value, right? You agree that it's got value, even if it doesn't have any intrinsic project value, I guess would be the best way to say that.
You're starting to sound like a maxi.
Yeah. Oh, God. Okay. All right. BitBoy out.
Yeah. No, those were all really good points from everybody all the way around. Actually, one of my favorite things you said, Ben, was talking about shortcuts. And, and that's, you hear people talk about that a lot. Like, when you're looking for a shortcut, a get rich quick scheme, you're trying to get there really, really fast. Like, that's usually when you get scammed. That's usually when you get burned. If something seems too good to be true, put your,
it usually is.
Yeah, it usually is. Like, put your radar up and start, like you said, do more research. Make sure you really understand this stuff, because I think most people that are buying these coins, they don't know anything about decentralized exchanges. They don't know anything about liquidity getting pulled or rug pulls or any of that stuff that happen. Like,
some are learning. Some are learning.
Some are learning very quickly. And and to be fair, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is, like, I don't even know if I really finished that point that I was making about that, which is some people will get rich quick overnight. But without the education, they're going to lose it all due to greed. And that's really what's important to understand with this.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And I read an article that was saying, like, you always hear about the kid who had $500 and turned it into $500,000, or took $1,000 and turned it into $1 million. You don't hear about the guy who put in $50,000 and then couldn't get anything back out because there was no liquidity, or the guy who put in $3,000 and it went down to $1,500. Like, those stories don't ever make the mainstream media. So it's just keep everything in perspective. Like you said, people can make money, but at the end of the day, a lot of people are going to lose money too. So if you're not in early, and if you don't have a big platform like Portnoy to pump everything up after you get in, I mean, like, he's no dummy. He knows, he goes and buys $40,000 worth and puts out this video, like, it's probably going to pump, and he's smart enough, savvy enough to probably sell it at the right time. So as always, it was a really good time today. It was a lot of fun. Looks like Diana's got the most points. So we'll give you 30 seconds to give us a parting thought and tell the audience something that you think they need to hear.
I didn't know this is how it worked, but I guess parting thoughts, I would say, this is when you think about crypto, when you get into the space, you got to think long term. And I think when you're thinking long term, you can't be invested in the shit coins and the memes and all the hype and things like that. You have to, like, think about what are the projects that are really going to push this space forward? What are the projects that are going to build the internet of the future? That's what you should be thinking about if you're in it for the long run. So I would just urge you all to, like Ben said, really go out there and educate yourself. Go and actually learn about how these things work. Don't just be checking, prices on these cryptos and seeing what's going up, what's going down. Actually take the time to learn why they're going up, why they're going down, what's the project behind these coins, and really go out there and educate yourself. And I think that's how we're going to build the future.
Awesome. Really appreciate everybody joining us today. We had a lot of fun, a lot of really good discussion, great topics. As always, please smash the likes and leave us comments in the description. And, any questions or any topics you want to hear us cover in the future, any guests you'd like to see on the show, we always love to hear your feedback. So, as always, we're out. We'll see you tomorrow.